Hello. Nice to see you all. I think, are we the last presentation of the day? Thank you for making it. We appreciate it that you haven't gone home yet. Okay, so we're quite relaxed in our presentation style. We'll probably miss some stuff and forget it and go back. So do give us a shout at the end if you have any questions, stuff that we haven't covered. Today we are here to talk to you about social media, and the theme is 101. But it's not really, because if it was 101 it would be really boring, because quite a lot of you probably know a fair amount of social, at least something about social. And we don't really do boring, so we like to break the social boring. So we're not here to just do 101, we're here to hopefully give you some new ideas, things to think about. We want to help you stop posting wallpaper content, stop trying to do things that aren't valuable, and kind of talking to your audience in a way that they don't care about and don't engage with. So, this is us. I'm Belle. We're from Immediate Future. We focus just on social. I've been working in marketing for about the last 20 years, helping brands to cut through people who want to punch above their weight. That's kind of my bag. And with me is Katie.
Hi. So I've been with Immediate Future for about 20 years because I set it up. And I love social media, and I particularly love data, which you'll see a little bit later on. So one of the principles that is easily forgotten is we think social is just the end game, that social is not the oil in the engine or the chocolate in the fountain. In other words, social covers more than just that last click, that last part. And in fact, social has a massive impact on your search demand. It has a massive impact on your email open rate. So you have to look at social as this bigger thing. And this is how you should, let me run around here. So compare to the way people mostly think about social. Actually, it runs the whole way through the purchase journey. I'll go this side. People look at social when they're dreaming about coming to your hotel, restaurant, eating your food, when they're booking, all the way through to the experience which they'll share, and into advocacy. We worked with a pub brand, and we know that when people are dreaming and when they're thinking about booking, they're mostly on Facebook. Yeah, that's where they'll do it. However, by the time they get into the experience in pub, they'll be on Instagram and Twitter. So you can actually see how people will use their social networks to find out more about you. But we call this going through the full funnel. And really what matters for you guys is people always talk about awareness, and we haven't got a lot of reach, and we've got tight budgets. The real key, and why we talk about breaking the social boring, is that you need to be memorable. When someone sees your post, when somebody sees the content you produce, and we're going to show you some examples, you need to be able to fix in someone's head. And being memorable means a couple of things. First, it means being emotional. You need to make an emotional connection with your audience. They need to feel why they should come to you, because that helps us remember. It's our limbic brain activating as we think about, oh, that restaurant's great for this, or this works for that. The second is experience, which is what we're looking for. As consumers, as your customers are looking for that feeling of experience and the recognition that that experience fits to my desire, even if it isn't today, even if it's 6 months down the line. And the way we need to do that is to be relevant. And part of that is to listen, and that means listening to the conversation, looking at what's happening on TikTok, looking at what's happening on Instagram, listening to how people talk about your products, but also how they talk about your competitors or they talk in market. And then it's about being in context at the right time, at the right place, in the right moment. And we'll show you examples of this, just throwing the theory. The last bit is probably one of the most important things out there, which is there is so much content out there. And as it's nearly the end of the day, large amounts of it is shit content, right? So that we're just not paying enough attention to what's going out there. And if you think about it, Most of us are on a mobile phone, on a screen this big, and we're scrolling up on our channels. You need something that is going to grab attention, that is going to be thumb-stopping.
So we'll start a bit with the listening and the data, which is one of Katie's big loves, but I'm going to start off with it today because I can. Because we could stand here and sort of tell you these figures, like 24% of people are on social, but you'd kind of look at it with this face. And if we then come and say this other big stat, well, 51% are interested in eating out, it's not enough. It's really vague. It's not deep enough, it's not insightful enough for you to learn about what your audience care about and then talk to them in the same way that they expect you to. And you need to know who your audience are. And that isn't demographics. It's not whether they're based in Crouch End or Land's End, because it's kind of irrelevant. It's not whether they're a boomer or a zoomer. We have to get closer to what the audience care about. So we have to go, each of us are defined by our core values, and we have to go further than just saying it's a demographic target that we're after, it's millennials, it's Gen Z, whatever it is, and think about what are the core values of the brand, who's going to resonate with that, who's going to care about that, what are the behaviours that they're likely to exhibit, so are they doing things specifically on social, are they going out, are they spending time with friends, with family, with peer groups, whatever that might be, and what are their motivations and their triggers? What's the thing that makes them take an action, that makes them pick up the phone or book or go to the website or whatever that action might be? So if we start with the where and when, it really does matter which channel that you're talking to them on. As Katie said, it's all the way through. People will use different channels for different things. The bad news, unfortunately, is Facebook isn't dead. Sorry about that. I know everyone likes to think it is, but it isn't. They're still on there. And what they're doing on there really matters, because for a lot of people, maybe Facebook is only about their friends and family. They don't want to see brands. They don't want to see ads. But for others, it's about the community and maybe thinking they're going to support somebody local to them. Maybe there's an indie restaurant. Maybe there's something that's just new and pop up on the scene. They're more likely to see that through friends and family, effectively word of mouth on Facebook, than they are perhaps on some of the other channels. So you've got to think about where they are and reach them where they are. Otherwise, you're kind of just wasting your time posting content out to people who can't see it, won't see it, and don't care. What they care about and what they want is a little bit trickier. So to get further than maybe where they're based, to get further than which channels they're on, we need to know what's going to motivate them and what they care about. So in these examples, for example, when we're looking at hospitality, in a hospitality setting, what people care about most is the quality of where they are, the surroundings, etc. When it comes to buying tea, actually the price is really important to people. Now, we then have to think, okay, they might be buying tea in a hospitality setting, so we have to figure out what the right message is to combine both and get that across to them on social, answer those desires, essentially. And even then, once you learn about this, it's not a foolproof guide, because social is all about test and learn and experimentation. You can't expect to just put the same kind of posts out and it's not working, we'll just keep doing it because we're ticking the box of social. That's absolutely fine. We have to keep testing and learning. And for those of you with any kind of science brain, a bit like Katie has, you need to start with a hypothesis, something that you think might be true. For example, I think that pineapple on pizza might work, but we don't have time for that debate today. I personally, pineapple fan. But don't let that put you off me. Better example is probably thinking about the kinds of drinks that we might offer. Maybe there's a trending drink that we might offer. And a hypothesis could be, we're pretty sure that if we start pushing our green tea, maybe advertising that more on our boards, whatever it happens to be, that's going to sell because we can see that green tea is increasing. Can we prove that with some social data? Yes, we can see that conversations around green tea is growing. We can start to then test that theory. If they're talking about it online, if they're looking for it, then perhaps it's going to translate into a real setting. Or you can look at, maybe it's not green tea at all, maybe it's coffee. Maybe we should be thinking about what people are looking at on TikTok. The keyword trend at the moment are showing coffees up by 27%. It's largely driven by this lot at Nootropics in the last month or so. They've done an incredibly good job, partly being on Dragon's Den, of getting noticed. And that means if they're being noticed, people are talking about them. But it's not just kind of about headlines. We have to get a bit deeper into it as well.
And because it's very easy for us in marketing or running our businesses to go with our gut instinct. So this is a lovely example of how people talk about peanut butter. And you would think, because your gut instinct is peanut butter is for breakfast. But if you do that, if you talk about peanut butter and breakfast only, you're missing all the rest of the market. You're missing the people that actually are having peanut butter at lunch. So it's understanding that whole dynamic and not being led by your gut instinct, but being led by the data instead. Another example is tea. So a lot of social media these days is accompanied with music. So if you are going to use music, you might go for all these different kinds of music, but look what music people like to think about. And these are about all the little bits that make you memorable. So when all the other peanut butter brands are talking breakfast and you're talking lunch at work or a snack at work, you suddenly become the trigger for purchase. And that is really where you want to get to with your social media. And actually also looking at affinities and associations. So if you click again, they are. So what's really interesting is we looked at different types of holidays people take and what they like to do. And there's really nice affinities that you can then play into. So if you're a drinks brand, unsurprisingly, it's the all-inclusive that's part of that conversation. But here's some interesting parts here. Look at caravan and self-catering, where food really matters. And what they're talking about, not just is where the local supermarket is, they're asking, where can I eat? Where can I take my family? Where can I get something special? Where can I find picnic food? All of these conversations are happening. Now that means that you've got an association in the language that you might use in selling across these. And you're able to bring that into your conversation. So now you're being more relevant. I'm going on a caravan holiday. Where can I go where I can eat somewhere with the dogs, for instance? You suddenly have that association. You're making yourself memorable because you're doing more than look at our great food, because that's what everybody else does. And I mentioned about memorability being part of our limbic system, and this is because instead of looking at the demographics, instead of thinking, oh, we should take a nice shot of our restaurant here or our hotel beds there, what you need to think about is why. Why does someone buy from you? And you'll have 5 or 6 reasons. So some of the whys might be occasions, but some of the whys might be they're looking for specific diets, or they want to have a big pudding afternoon tea thing going on, or whatever it is. My point is there are why triggers, and that why triggers are the bits you're playing into. Because when you do that, you become more emotional. If you ever want to look up more about why the why matters, then Simon Sinek is your go-to video with his talking about what he calls the golden circle, which is this, and he explains it in more detail.
So we talked a little bit there about starting with the why, making sure that you're engaging with your topics, you're being relevant, and now we can talk about content and how good content makes the difference. So you start off with building your content thinking, okay, we know people are interested in this, we've got the data to say they're talking about it, we've got the information about the topics we should be including, and that's great, but it kind of falls down if you make boring content as a result of it. So it has to be inspirational. You have to find the ways, people that you can work with, whether that is in-house, agency, creators, to provide you things that, again, meet the audience where they are and what they expect. So there's a couple of examples on here of certain elements of this. The first video that was playing is from Trip Drinks. They have a really nice content till. Effectively, everything they do has this kind of sunshiny feel that's helping to like brighten up your day. So that's a content till you can think about that runs through every single piece that you create. The second piece was one we created for Chavroux goat's cheese, and it's a tilt on the butterboard trend that was going around last year. But one of the things we did is this was created at home by one of our guys in our agency. She made a little bit of an error and knocked the packaging with the bread, and the client was like, oh, there's an error in here. She's clipped the packaging. But actually, this is one of our best performing videos because it felt authentic. It felt to people that they could relate to that, and they'd probably mess it up a bit if they were having to make a video as well. Making it relevant and kind of getting across the line with, I think both of these are grind here. They're using trends around ASMR and trending sounds. So again, you're making relevancy connection with the audience. And for Mission, this was about picking up on the moment. So it wraps a sort of standard thought about for lunch, dinner, snack times maybe, not so much in the dessert category, but we really felt like there was an opportunity to create some incredible s'mores recipes with them around the October time a couple of years ago. You also need to think about when to innovate. It's not a good idea just to say we're going to do something like this channel hack over here every time we create a piece of content, because then it becomes boring. So what we're trying to do when we talk about innovative content types is to not only provide a variety of stuff that's in feed to keep your audience interested, but again, meet one of probably your values. Many businesses will have the value to innovate, to move forward, to be forward thinking. So showing that you're doing that through your social content is really useful.
So where is that sweet taste of opportunity? I talked a little bit about this full fat funnel, and the idea is that you're using social for that big awareness and reach to get to your audience. That means you need to think about not just reach, but also frequency. So how often do you need to be in front of somebody to keep being memorable? At least, I would say, a minimum of 3 times, and that's with one asset. And the part you need to play is storytelling as you come down here. So the first bit of awareness is your trigger. It should be the thing to fill the top of the funnel as fast as possible that gets people's attention. This bit on consideration might look at different angles within that. It might, if you're a hotelier, might be the angle of the good night's sleep. It might be the angle of something nice to eat or a special vegan sausage for breakfast or whatever it is. But these are all the consideration elements, all telling the same story as you told at the beginning. And then the call to action. What tends to happen is people fish here, and that pond is super small, and you're not helping yourself to make it any bigger because you're not building brand, and you have to build brand alongside performance and results, because if you don't do that, you just get smaller and smaller and smaller returns on investment till your bid prices are sky high and you're seriously challenged in how you can get your name out there. So it's really important that you think about the brand building and the triggers at the top, build out the storytell, and then move down to drive the booking.
So we also have to make sure we've got enough content coming into our funnel. This is a big challenge for a lot of brands, particularly with social media, because often there's maybe a very small marketing team, maybe it's a team of 1 trying to do everything, and that can be a big challenge. So we often start off our planning with, where are we going to get this content from? Are there existing assets that we can do something else with? Maybe they're a bit older, they look outdated, but we might be able to refresh them, use them again. Can we commission new content, whether that be stills, whether that be video? Can we use an agency, studio? Can we use some food creators? Internal production in-house, don't underestimate the power of the in-house teams, actually. A lot of them probably are doing it themselves. You know, there are chefs around who have their own profiles, probably working for you, so you could definitely go and engage with them. UGC is a big one, which I'll come on to in a little bit, and also influencers. We're kind of sliding from influencer into content creator as well, because it's not always just about someone who's influencing for influencer's sake. So UGC, I'll start off with user-generated content. Super important to get some authenticity into your feed, again, to be relatable to the audience that you're talking to. It's all about creating that credibility and making sure that people understand what to expect when they come to you or when they buy your product. And it will increase that authenticity and the trust. Effectively, what you're doing every time you're championing your advocates, the people who do love your brand, is increasing brand trust for the people who haven't yet experienced or maybe are thinking about it. They're in that middle of the funnel stage and you need to push them down a little bit further. When it comes to pushing for engagement, we obviously can't just go out and say, send us all your recipes, and that's the only call to action that we have. There are other tactics that we should be thinking about on social in order to generate that UGC. So that could be competitions, it could be challenges, it could be just working with a couple of creators to kind of kickstart the idea around it. For example, when we worked with Mission, they have a Disney Kids wraps range, flavoured wraps. We came up with a couple of straplines, making mealtimes magical, ran a competition and challenged parents to send us their animal creations so that we could see exactly how creative they were with their kids' lunch. And one of our audience segments, it's mums, it's parents, and they're very prideful about what they do for their kids' lunch. They want to give them something that is healthy, nutritious, and also fun. So when we asked for it, we got it in absolute droves. Like, this is the really small selection of some of the UGC that's come in. And we've picked some of the best ones, obviously, but we got so many people who were genuinely just wanted to share how much fun they had with their kids at mealtimes. So it is always worth asking and seeing how you can engage the community. Sorry? Was it rewarded? Was the sharing rewarded? Yeah, so we then reshare it up onto stories or we go back to them. So in this case, there was a competition element, but there isn't always. Sometimes they just kind of love that 15 minutes of fame. We also think about partnering up. Now, this is something that you can do right after this session. Go find somebody here to partner up with who's got an aligned brand value with your business. Whether it is recipes, competitions, experiences, such as with Kidzania here, it makes a big difference to both of you to get that extra engagement. In the example that where we worked with Applewood Mexicana, Norseland cheeses, we went a bit further than just doing a competition. You can see the little screen roll here. We asked them for cheesy jokes, a really simple mechanic. And lots of people sent in their cheesy jokes. Instead of just saying, thanks, we responded with a cheese gif every single time so that they felt amused, they felt the love, they felt that they'd contributed to something that was kind of an ongoing piece. Okay, coming on to influencers a little bit. Your objective really matters with influencers / content creators. So brand advocates and banter with other brands, it's not always enough. We have to be thinking about how we can go a little bit further, and influencers and content creators can really help us do that. They're either going to be, probably in the macro level, massive content creators, big celebrities, etc., who will change their behaviour of the audience. They will recommend a product or they will go to a place and it will change people's perception of it, will change their idea, and it will really move the needle. You've then got awareness drivers who maybe have a huge reach and they're really just helping to generate extra reach for you. Can aid discovery, make sure that more people see the brand. And then you have co-creation. And some of these mix together really, really well, but co-creation can really help fill your content funnel if perhaps you don't have a big in-house team or the budget's a little bit lower. Create recipes with them that they feel involved with, share those, and then that will, again, help the brand reach to increase. I don't know, is there a show of hands? Has anyone watched the Hilton TikTok, 10-minute TikTok? No, I would advise going to look at it. It's kind of a really great example of where Hilton are meeting people where they are on TikTok. They've worked with a bunch of content creators who have big reaches on TikTok, but they didn't say this thing to camera and tell everyone how good we are. They let the content creators do their thing, create in their way, whether it was humour or whether it was drama, whatever they usually do. And it's kind of a masterclass in how to work with content creators in the hospitality sector. So recommend it, even if you don't like Paris Hilton. So all of that builds influence, and it doesn't have to be macro stuff. It doesn't have to be the really big things. In this case, we worked with Mission. We spotted people were using Squeaky Bean products, which are vegan, and Mission wraps are vegan. We spotted they were coming up in UGC a little bit. So we created a couple of recipes and then reached out to the Squeaky Bean people, managed to co-create a couple of things, and that led on to an influencer house where one of the guys, Ollie here, otherwise known as El Burrito Monster, had already been creating lots of stuff for Mission. He hadn't really used Squeaky Bean, but they picked him to go into the influencer house. So for us at Mission, it was like kind of a dream come true because it all tied up perfectly. And they did some incredible content that went out. We also then added to that by requesting some videos specifically from Ollie during the influencer house and afterwards to continue that lasting effect of memorability of the brand. And he's got quite a unique style, so it definitely helped to get us some extra reach. But you can go a little bit more macro. So Ollie was a smaller content creator, and in the case of Billingtons, they needed to go a bit bigger. So heritage brands often find they have to reinvigorate their audience a bit. Maybe they need to reach younger people. Maybe it's just gone a little bit stale on the marketing front, and it's a little bit just too much homely stuff. So with Billingtons, we looked at their values of quality, of taste, of innovation, and family baking. And we came up with a set of creators, celebrities, chefs, chocolatiers, who would answer those values for the audience. Because it wasn't just about saying, we know we're going to reach family bakers, therefore let's get the hairy bikers. We wanted to go a bit further than that. And we built a campaign around the first time they'd ever tried Billingtons so that we could share that with a brand new audience and get them to understand why it was worth choosing Billingtons over their maybe other sugar or other baking products. And we also did some paid. Now, the opportunity in paid is one of these sweet opportunities that we think you've got alongside UGC and influencers. The big ones, you're either going to be doing it for brand or performance. Don't try and do both. Don't expect brand coverage from your performance ads. Don't expect your brand ads to drive performance clicks. They have to go hand in hand. You have a big opportunity to scale, but you can also control that scaling. Doesn't have to be massive budgets, just start off smaller, test and learn, scale up, because you've got the flexibility to up your budgets, decrease, change your audience hourly if you like, but mostly probably weekly would be recommended. And it will help you with all of the things on the right-hand side there. Unfortunately, social is a pay-to-play. Seriously now, you can't just expect organic reach. I'm pretty sure the data's like you'll reach less than 1% of your Facebook followers by putting an organic post out now. So if any of you guys are feeling the pain of basically getting no impressions on your Facebook page and no engagement, you're not alone. It is just the way that Facebook's going particularly. So have a think about adding paid to your set of opportunities. One of the things we did with Mission, and again, this is not a big budget, we'd already done some testing and learning. We'd already done a lot of brand work with them. In this case, they were launching a new product into stores, competing with own label, also competing with another bakery oil product at the time, and needed to get relisted. So their street tacos, we had to look at coming up with all the branding stuff and making sure that it was memorable. But we then needed to reach specific people. It was only in a selected number of stores. So we took a smaller budget and said, how can we do it? Dropped geo pins around some of those stores and then pushed people to go and try the product, drive into trial, drive into purchase in order to get them relisted. So rather than saying, let's do a big nationwide campaign, instead we focused really pin drop on exactly where they needed to be in order to get the proof to move forward to a bigger scale campaign. And you might think that maybe something like the South Bank Centre would have to have a much bigger budget to do something like this to get 370 million reach, but in fact this was done with under 20 grand. again, it was about geo pin drops. So they noticed there was an opportunity around the Change in Britain exhibition. It happened to be on at the same time as the London Marathon. There is a lot of downtime. If anyone's been to watch anyone in the marathon, a lot of downtime while people get through that really long course. So it kind of fell into place that we were able to push people to go to that exhibition in their downtime. And the thing that mattered was not just that we got that huge reach, although that's lovely. The thing that mattered was the ticket sales. And that's because we have to always think about what the end goal is and how we measure it.
And actually, when it comes to measuring it, there are two groups of metrics you need to think about. The first one is a bit more vanity. That'll be the number of followers you've got, the likes, the kind of, yay, this is a great piece of content. Because these are the ones that tell you about the performance of your content so that you can A/B test, say this creative works better than this storytell works better than this one. But when we get down to the reality of us running businesses and having to show the real deal, we need to think about the sanity metrics, which is what Belle is talking about, which is how does the social story go from all the impressions we've got and actually result in something. And if we nip to the next slide, you want to be looking at creating a framework like this. So this is your obvious vanity metrics, so impressions, engagement, clicks onto the site. Then you might have website impressions, and these are just, we have a very big master framework that nobody ever wants to look at. Yeah, this is a wee snapshot based on partner inquiries. So the real key is you're then thinking about what would be the next stage that shows value to your whole marketing mix, that leaky chocolate fountain idea, which is that social does more. So where's the other impact? And you can measure search demand, you can measure ratings and reviews here. But the ultimate end game is to go, well, you know, did we increase footfall? Have we made a difference to the business? And each of you will have a different impact here. But if you don't set out to measure it, you'll never know. And you'd be really surprised that something that does okay at this level, gets a few likes, you might find is the piece of content that drives people all the way to the end game. So measuring across the funnel and across the business is really important. So very brief bit about us. Australia. These are the brands that we've worked with. We're about to turn 20. God. We started when it was blogs and MySpace and nothing else. It's got so much more complicated. And you can see the broad range of experience that we have. We do this by being diverse. And I was saying to Belle earlier, this event, it has great diversity at it. But actually that really matters because you need the diversity from your content creators, whether they're in-house or you're hiring them, because that is your audience. So it's really important you have people with different values and different outlooks working within social. We get asked to be on TV, write for the press.
That's why we're here.
Just before that, and we win awards. It's getting embarrassing. Takeaways for you guys. Listen, if you're not spending your time, and anybody who says they're too old to be in social media, I'm 57 and I adore TikTok. And let me tell you that the majority of the people on TikTok are over 30. So anybody who thinks that's just the teens, forget it, right? I adore TikTok, sorry. But what you need to do is listen. And for some of you won't, that doesn't mean buying a great big tool and an expensive program or AI. Spend some time. Look at what others are saying. Do searches. See what people are interested in. It will really give you some empathy for what matters. And make sure your content is aligned to the values of the audience. You may have different audiences. You may have different values aligned with them. You may have an audience that values the comfort, and you may have an audience that values the experience. So really, you need to know your audience values and then invest in UGC, build strong relationships, take the time here at the UGC level to get close to your influencers and do paid if you want to be seen at all, because otherwise it's a bit like putting up a billboard outside the toilets here, which would actually probably be more effective than just doing organic on Facebook right now.
So that was kind of and finally, but this is actually finally. So before we open for any questions, this is your treat for today for making it through and staying with us. There is a downloadable report here, so grab the QR code or take a picture of this and go to the bit.ly link later. There are food and drink trends for 2023. Some of these will not be necessarily a big surprise to you, but what the difference is in here is there are some actionable things that you can do with those on social within this report. So hop on and have a look. If you want to see more from us, there's lots of video content, lots of blogs. Basically, we're really noisy on social, so you'll find us in all of those places, and we can always have a chat. So, any questions? Yes.
On the bar chart showing earlier, it shows that Facebook is still the most popular. Where does the data come from?
So that was a specific audience, wasn't everybody,
Ah, okay.
but yeah, it basically is still the biggest platform.
In going to eat out, so that was the definition. People who are interested in eating out in the UK. It was a year-long sample. We used data from Global Web Index, which is how the big media agencies make their purchases. So it's really solid data. So that was specifically an audience that was interested in eating out a lot. Obviously, we can go away and look at those that are interested in different things, but that was the specific there. But in the main, we find Facebook is always higher than people think. And because the press talk about TikTok, they think everybody's on TikTok, but actually everybody's still on Facebook.
I don't remember how many percent among all the social media on the charts that you were showing.
How many in that chart?
Yeah, is it
I
like
don't.
50?
I don't have the.
Okay.
The first one. I think the first data that we had was 51% of people that are on social are interested in eating out.
Okay.
That was the really big one.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you.
Any other Grammy? Yeah.
Thanks a lot, very interesting. I want to know word of mouth, okay, is a very important part of it, but certainly it's not always very favorable. So what's your suggestions on how to handle this?
As in, sorry, are you saying as in when it's negative word of mouth? Yeah, and it's a real challenge, particularly there's the review side of things, which is being open. You see the people that do the best on TripAdvisor, for instance, those that go, I'm really sorry to hear that. This is what we're going to do to solve the problem down the line, or this is how we might do it. Then there's the bit where at the moment, we have a big rise in de-influencing, which is saying, I'm an influencer, but I'm actually going to tell you not to buy this product. So it's called de-influencing, which is a massive rise on specifically TikTok and Instagram. That is about forming good relationships and building credibility with influencers that like you, because you can only counter it. Don't get into a fight with them. And the very last bit is don't stress too much. The biggest aim about is, first of all, it's not a crisis, it's an issue. Unless your building burns down or somebody dies eating in your restaurant, that is not a crisis. So if people are just moaning about something, it's not a crisis. The aim is it's an issue, which means that you need to make the positive voice louder. That is your aim. How? By working with influencers, by putting out positive content, by working with content creators. It's still work to be done. It's not easy. Potentially, depends. It depends whether your story's made it to the press. We generally find the PR approach is too washed and rinsed for social media. It's too polished. Social media is about, as Belle said, about being authentic, isn't it? And one of the challenges you have with doing this as part of your PR team is it becomes too polished. What you really need is authentic voices who like your brand. Well, A, one would hope your product has, or your service has something good to say about it. And B, you can make it louder in the way that Belle showed. So if you have great UGC, then actually one of the things you can do, when you saw those UGC things, one of the things that the team did was actually repost it and say, thank you, mummy, blogger, whatever.
Yeah, and across more than just that day when we did the competition. So UGC is continually shared. If we've run a competition, we've run something where we've got people to send things into us, that becomes part of our always on calendar. So it goes out for longer than a day. So you just reinforcing your positive messages. But you do need to do that listening where if there are a set of negative comments that are continually coming in about the same thing over and over again, you have to address it, own up, fix it in the business if you can, and speak authentically about the challenge that you've had and potentially how you've gone about fixing it. Any other questions? No. Amazing. Thank you so much. Oh, one more. Last one.
I work for a hotel, and I keep receiving influencers' requests to have free night, free food, everything for free.
Mm-hmm.
What do you recommend? Say no.
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways you can work with influencers. One is a fee economy where you pay them, they go off and do the content, and et cetera, et cetera. The other is a passion economy where you recognise that they do genuinely have a love for the brand, and you can go and work with them by gifting, by providing them with experiences, whatever it happens to be. The people who are coming to you and asking that stuff, I mean, mostly polite response, and we're not able to offer that at this time, to be honest. But it's worth taking into consideration what they think they're trying to do. Ask them more questions, ask them who their audience is and why they think they're right for promoting the brand, challenge them on it, and then you might find you get a few less. Great. Okay, amazing. We'll wrap that up. Thank you so much.